Hello. I don't know if anyone's going to join, but I'm going to post this anyways. I want to talk about something. And also, I feel like it's easier to post so I make it live. And then, so if anyone comes in because I'm out of work, I'll just put it down and then talk again after. But, I don't know, if I feel like I want to talk about something, making posts all the time, it's first of all, people don't want to read blogs. They're more interested in, listening. And then second of all, I feel like if I can verbalize something, my thoughts will be a little faster than writing them down. Even though I've gotten kind of good at it, I'm going to be faster in my mind still. So, hey, what's up? So I'm just going to talk. Anyways, I'm going to talk about the concept of cheating. Now, there's a billion different things you can talk about, and they're all really going to lead to the same philosophy to me. But that being said, I'm going to talk about this and lead it to the same philosophy because the same philosophy is what works every single time. So let's get into it. Cheating. All right. So people have a lot of very negative thoughts about it, and I'm not here to say that you shouldn't. This is not going to be about you should have a forgiving or whatever. No, I'm not trying to say how you feel about it is wrong or anything. Cheating is pretty fucked up, but at the end of the day, given the circumstances of everyone who lives, people are going to go towards what they want. And their self-control is entirely going to decide whether or not they actually pursue something or not. Their consideration. Some people are better at holding back, some aren't. And people are worse at holding back when they were not given something earlier on in their life. They're more susceptible to addiction because that thing, comparatively, mathematically, let's think about it. If you had a life as a kid that was a 10, you're going to be searching for something that's a 10, but you won't settle for lower, so you're less likely to cheat because a 10 is harder to find. If you're at a 0, you could maybe go lower or higher, depending. It's whatever, but let's not get into all the nuance of it. Let's say most people are in the negative. Most people don't have very good childhoods. And again, I'm not making excuses, all right? Because excuses means that I'm validating a bad action and saying keep doing it. But I'm not going to make an argument to punish people either. Neither of those things are the thing. I'm always choosing the neutral route. And I'm not a centrist either. A centrist doesn't care. I care about fucking everything. I'm just neutral about everything because if you listen to me, you'll see why. People are going to act on how they feel because everyone is constantly trying to feel good. Even in the worst scenarios, if you're self-sacrificing, you will try to comfort yourself in that self-sacrifice, and the reason you self-sacrifice is because you see a long-term benefit to it. So you are always doing something in part because it benefits you, and that isn't a bad thing. That isn't inherently bad. That's actually a very necessary thing. Otherwise, shit would be a lot worse. So, self-love is important. It is not inherently selfishness or narcissistic. And if you wanted to get really technical about it, everyone is in some way selfish and narcissistic, and there's healthy levels of both. And everything is a spectrum. And people will give words to things if they reach some sort of extremity. When in reality, everything is a spectrum, and you can put those words onto anything if you realize what the spectrum is. Now, let's not get too much into the details here. Let's get back to it. People with bad childhoods are more likely to cheat because they're in the environment and they're attracted to those they see in their parents because those are the people that they are first meeting. All right, everyone has their inherent desires, whether they realize it or not, especially as kids, which is why a lot of SA victims will have a lot of their preferences if you're around that sort of thing. I was as a kid. I grew up in a pretty fucked up place. A lot of my significant others had weird fetishes, like DGG, CNC, all of that. I don't enjoy that stuff, but that's something I was subjected to and something I learned to understand. And in modern day, a lot of people reject these ideas. It makes them uncomfortable. They can't relate to it. Well, I can, and I've seen directly that it's true. And so given that, if people are relating directly to dominant figures in their life early on, in partnership, people are searching for those things as well, because people want those things to carry over in their life. They'll even be their own father or mother if no one else is doing that for them, which is why a lot of people will perpetuate nihilism or narcissism or whatnot, whatever works for them if they're lonely enough, which is why people are this or that. They're inspired to do this or that, like out of anger or envy or etc. They'll do bad things. You have a lot of school shooters. You have a lot of R words. You have a lot of P words, etc. It's all going towards the same thing. People don't get what they want. They find a way to get what they want because everyone is trying to have some sort of pleasure. And I'll pause right now. Hey, what's up, man?
Can I get an opener, please?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, what the fuck is it? 20 euros? That's weird. I don't know if I have any, but let me check.
Sure.
No, not at the moment. I'm sorry. We ran
Okay,
out.
that's cool, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, you have a good one.
Front door.
I'll continue, but I just wanted to say I do not like selling those things, so I just be lying about it. Like we had some, I just don't want to sell them. Anyways, people do things to get what they want. They'll sacrifice things to get what they want, and there's no such thing as some sacrifice. Well, like people could be like not so. I don't want to get too weird into it. People can be masochists, sadists, etc. They'll find some pleasure in a sacrifice if that sacrifice was even something they had to adapt to, which they'll see as a dominant figure in their life, which can be like archetypically related to a mother or father, etc. You get the point. We have these ideas of mother and father because that's what we relate to, but in reality, if we zero it down, it's a dominant force in life from the point where we're first conceived and learning things, which will be our core of what we relate to. It's very hard to fix that, which is the point I'm going to make. Have the empathy always for anyone, because anyone that makes this or that, they either have a brain disorder, even if they grew up well, they have a brain disorder, which is a bit more rare, but not rare enough to not mention. Nothing is rare enough to not mention, but it's significant enough to mention. But most of the time, it's because people, even when they have intact brains and stuff, will have that relation to how they grew up early on. So even if you have like a great brain, like your parents didn't like fucking abuse drugs or did stupid things when you were developing in the womb, even if like things just went perfect, right? Even if your parents weren't like incestual or anything, even if you came out perfect, you can be subjected to a mental illness either because deep down the line your parents maybe had like good connections in their brain that were proper and could be used correctly, everything was there, but the connections were wrong, or somewhere down the line your parents or the grandparents fucked up, so it's not genetic necessarily, but it's big enough to create newer genetics in the moment. So severity depends. I wanted to get all the nuance of that out the way before I say what's next, but yeah. In this case, we have to have, and I don't mean sympathy, I mean empathy, because empathy is harder to get than sympathy. You can have sympathy for anyone, but that's not understanding. If you don't understand, you don't really truly care for someone, you are going to be more fascist with your approach to it if you're having just sympathy, because you are going to be more inclined to problem solving And without proper understanding, your problem solving can be dismissive of what you're ignorant of, which will cause you to do fascist things if you know it or not. And you won't really know if you're doing something fast. You could know, but you won't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get too deep into all this jargon. I keep saying that, but it's because I'm speed running through all the fucking jargon, which would take too long to go into if I didn't speed run it. But that is why empathy is important and why I use the word empathy and not sympathy. All right, so I had to explain that because I don't want people to think I need to say a different word. No, I don't. I know what I'm saying, and it's important. It's hard to develop. It's entirely worth developing, and it's painful, but that's part of actually becoming better and not being subjected to horrible things in the future. Now, people cheating, that's a bad thing. Pretty much almost universally a bad thing. Even in cultures of polygamy, there's going to be like incel tribes because polygamy will lead to hierarchy, and then like people who aren't getting any like bitches and shit like gonna rise up type thing. Like, it happens. We don't need to get too much in the historical context. It's happened. Look it up yourself. I'm not like your teacher. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get that mean. I'm not going to teach you everything in a short life, is what I meant. Sorry. But things like that have to work out because, especially for the majority who are going to be lower class, because that's just how it works. Like with the resources, everyone can't be rich. People are inherently competitive. New customer, by the way. I'll talk more. Hey, welcome. Oh, this is good. I'll clock you in real quick. Boop.
Morning.
Good morning. Boop. That is a bit weird talking when someone's here, but I'll keep talking anyways. Yeah, he doesn't know English, so it's kind of more chill for me. He's a cool dude, though. I like him. Given this, seeing cheating is a bad thing. Everything that's bad is kind of the same. All sin relates. You know, brought historical context, brought in like a context of how empathy is what I'm going for here. All of that. I'm going to say next on this specific issue alone that when people are cheating, and cheating can be through pornography, by the way, various different things. It's all a spectrum once again. People want to leave things out, but you can't really do that. And also, subjectively cheating is like whether or not like you're okay with it. It's all complicated, right? But this is assuming you're not okay with it. You are going to feel like less, and if you feel like less, you're defensive, so you're going to make the other person feel less by projecting. And if you don't, then you're a self-harm type, which means like you were probably taught that early on, or you're a fighter type, which is probably how you reacted early on as well. This is how people grow into resentful old people. All right, that's a problem for just the person's health in general that's getting cheated on. 100%, maybe even mostly, but through an empathetic standpoint, I'd say everyone has to be okay for and your sphere for you to be okay, because you need some type of reassurance, especially going on to more intelligent stances. You're not going to get reassurance through like revenge concepts, etc., because that mirrors back onto you in ways that catch up to you, and etc. It's not healthy. There's never an instance where being mean or being like resentful or revengeful is going to help you. That's not to say that there isn't causes to it that are entirely reasonable, because there are people act the way they do, not like entirely intentionally out of evil. That's never happened. Evil doesn't exist to me, and I won't get into that too much. I'll talk about that more later. People are going to do what they do. out of a reaction to, one, how they're kind of brought up, and two, like what helps them maintain some sort of thing. Now, it's harder to grow into maturity because it's more painful, and people who don't know the value of growing into more maturity are going to not do that. Like, it's like when you're learning in school, you're bored as fuck, right? It's probably because it's not interactive enough, so you're bored. And it being not interactive probably means that you don't know what the use for being interactive in it is for. So a good teaching process is more interactive, which is why I like art and media and stuff, things that resonate, things that are like, things that can bring you to tears from new understanding and like inner healing and stuff like that. We won't get too deep into that. We're covering the bases briefly. Now, given all this, which I'll keep saying, because there's a lot to add on to get to the point, you have to understand why someone may cheat on you, or someone may cheat on your friend, or why you may have cheated, or why you may feel like cheating, or why anyone may feel like cheating or has cheated ever. It is because people do things to feel better, and people do not know how to communicate how they feel, because fight, flight, self-harm, all of that are all reactions to these things, because people don't know how to feel. You know, this is entirely true. Sorry, I have to like ladder it up. So give me like a minute. So if people are doing things based on how they feel, and they're not inherently evil for it because it's like an unconscious process, everyone is kind of not that smart. Everyone is kind of always in some sort of mindset of a baby, because the unconscious, the core, is what is developed when you're young, when you are kind of considered close to a baby. So I would say, that's why I say everyone's a baby. You'll hear me say this. That being said, we tend to give harsher punishment onto those that are of age. And I find this interesting because, and this might feel like a weird segue, but it's not. People will usually, unless they're like really fucked up, and that's even an unconscious reaction, they'll not be as mean to like an animal or dog that they have like an attachment to, like a cat or a dog, like a pet, or a baby or a child. They won't be as harsh in punishment. They'll be more empathetic. When you turn 18 though, you'll hear a lot of people some people aren't like this, but most people are, especially in modern culture and like pretty much any culture. When you turn like 18 or whatever, or whatever age you are, through when you're considered a man or woman, you can go to jail. People aren't going to feel as bad for you as opposed to if you were just 17, which is weird. And there's another connection to this, because everything has a flat line connection. Isn't it weird how people are like, 18 is legal, so since I'm 30, dating an 18-year-old is fine, but not 17? Even though realistically an 18-year-old is still kind of dumb, pretty much about the same as a 17-year-old, and I would still consider a 30-year-old dating an 18 like a pedo, but the law doesn't. And a lot of people won't because they're predispositioned to the idea. Lots of predispositions play into all of this. So once you get more into the adult realm, people become more unforgiving of themselves or others. They'll be more harsh judging on themselves or others. This is especially problematic when they were doing that as a kid to begin with, and then the idea hops on top. And like during the stage where like maybe they can move out, maybe they're trying to heal, and so they might act more childish because they never got to. they'll be rejected because of that, because people have predisposed ideas, especially by those who are already ignorant to those ideas because they maybe had a better childhood than others. And so it's a vicious cycle. People are unforgiving to themselves and others. And no one's really to blame for this. This just happens. It's unfortunate, but it's something that needs to be fixed. And this goes on to the idea of cheating, which I'm talking about specifically now, but it connects to everything once again. Because if your spouse cheats on you, I have to answer a call. But I'm going to get into the guts of it like right after. Hi, 6th Street Smoke Shop. Yeah, we do. We have a few, and they're going for like cheap now, like $5. Buy one get one half off, like 2 for $9. Shit. Yeah, one sec. We don't have that much right now, but
We have like kilo, which is pretty good. That's like mango. We have apple, melon slice, lychee ice, orange, lemonade, gummy bear, sunfish, lychee, mango, peachy, mango, pineapple, lemon drops, orange limeade, peach ice, mango guava ice, and blue raspberry lime.
all right, for sure. I'll see you then. Peace. Again, back. We have to always forgive people and always consider how we feel. When people say forgive others, it's a hard concept because they hurt you and you feel bad and you're kind of the victim in that situation, especially. Like if you're getting cheated on, it's gonna feel like it's a lot worse than it usually is for you. You're gonna feel how you feel. Pain doesn't stop. But reacting out of vengefulness and stuff like that, all of that, any type of hatred or like onto other, not only reflects back on yourself, it won't fix things. You're not diving into anything there. It's always a vicious cycle. The pain isn't going to go away. It gets better. It's less frequent, and when it comes up, you are more able to comfort yourself and stuff. It doesn't go away though, but it is a lot better. Well, it can go away, like in instances of death, or in some instances it can kind of go away, like, but most of the time it really doesn't. And it kind of never does in tiny ways in some places, but I have to answer the phone again, but I'll get back to the point. Hey, 6th Street Smoke Shop. Hey, I'm doing good. How are you? Scam call. Anyways, forgiving others is forgiving yourself. And when we say that, we don't understand that we're being a bit selfish in that sentiment, which is fine, but that's part of the issue. We don't understand that everyone is kind of dealing with the same thing we are, but just from different places. So we would do the same thing as them if we were them. It's impossible to say you wouldn't, because you're not them, and if you were them, you would, because you wouldn't be any of you, you'd be all of them, and everywhere there were. No one chose to exist. No one did. It's impossible. If you chose to reincarnate in this life beforehand, how did you choose to exist beforehand? And if you go all the way back through this reincarnation theory, if you even believe in that, eventually you're probably going to get to a point where, like, where did I choose to exist and how would that even happen? You can't conceive of it. It has occurred. You can't not exist you can't be nothing, because first of all, if you're nothing, you're not being. And then just be like, I'm gonna see, it makes no fucking sense. And let's assume God put you on the earth, and we're not hating on God here, because assuming that we're already assuming that God didn't choose to exist, and then like we were going to exist either way, and God is like trying to help us. We're being generous here. we did not choose to exist. We have no one to blame for our existence, not ourselves or others. So there's no blame to go around. So that feeling of resentment and stuff is part of this illusion we have in our head, this predisposition we have in our head. And if it does not go addressed in American culture, not even most cultures really. So we're always constantly being negative. I'm negative, and I don't want to be, but I still am at times. I've been negative a few times in this life. I didn't want to be. But we're all kind of not very smart in that way. And it is not our fault or anyone else's fault. Everything is circumstantial. You can't even be mad at the reptilians if you think those things are real. You can't be mad at fucking like anyone. You can feel it very bad. You can you have to understand that no one is choosing to exist, and then they're reacting to everything that's happening to them in a way where they feel they'll best survive based on how they've learned up until that point to do so. Genetics involved as well, but depending on how strong genetics are, it's going to be like either mostly genetics, half and half, or like mostly not. And again, I'm not going to get too deep into that. You get the point, hopefully. So like, given all of that, we have to then understand and think about this point of view where if we're doing better for ourselves, we have to forgive those who do bad to us. And since we are in the same situation as that person, this gives us this empathy that none of us chose to exist, this inherent empathy that we all can carry, because we can all have that understanding. Now, given this inherent empathy, we can develop more empathy through our imagination, given situations, if we can put ourselves into those situations. Like, say, I've never been in this situation, and it's painful to think about if I was. And you might even feel like you're disrespectful in that regard. Throw that out the window, it doesn't fucking matter. Imagine yourself in someone else's shoes and try to throw everything out. Pretend like you were nothing, then you were something, and you were subjected to the things that led up to that person being them, and have no blame. Remove yourself. Like, try your hardest to become them, and you can see how they could have gotten to that point. This is hard to do, especially if you're hurting yourself. You don't want to add on to the pain, and I totally get that. Like, but I'm not here to go step by step. I'm here to like speed run you through like why empathy is important and give you a prominent example, a prominent fear we have of people cheating on us, a prominent extreme pain that we can all maybe somewhat relate to. The people that cheat on us is always circumstantial, once again, to how they exist inherently. Okay? Given everything I've said so far, how they exist inherently is all led up to that. Everything leads up to what you're doing. Everything has led up to this moment in my life for right now. Everything has led up to how you're reacting to what I'm saying right now. Everything has led up to everything. Without any of our beginning choice in it. There's no blame to go around. When we realize this, we're more able to, because by the way, empathy is not just like an emotional thing that's useless, like let me listen to your feelings, stuff, offering help, like type thing that like a lot of men will say, even though I kind of relate to that. I'm more of a helpful person. I'm not more in tune of emotions like women will be more naturally. This isn't that. Empathy is extremely helpful because empathy will lead to, hey, what's up, Josh? I'm just doing this live right now. I'm going to post it. I don't care if people join, but you can listen. Empathy is going to lead straight into healthy... Fuck yeah. If empathy is gonna lead straight into logic, the best logic you will ever fucking have will not occur unless you have like infinite empathy. If you don't, then you're just straight up like hyper fascist. There's no in between on that. There's literally none. Like if you don't have empathy, you have no logic. You have schizophrenia. That's true. You have schizophrenia if you have no empathy. And this could be maybe good in some cases because you can be very smart in your schizophrenic approach. Like you're very anti billionaires because your schizophrenic approach. So you can be more prone to attacking those things without the burden of empathy, which is like, yeah, that can happen. Like a schizophrenic be the psychopath type thing. Whatever. You maybe have seen that chart. But a real person who has pure good logic is purely also equally as empathetic leading into that fully. If you're just empathetic, then you're just an emotional wreck. That's the case. Mega Man meme. No empathy. So empathy and logic coexist with each other. They have to. If they don't, you don't have logic, you have schizophrenia. We've established this. Now, let's say that you're like empathy overlord and you're also pretty smart and you want to be helpful. All these things combining together, you are on the right track. This being, you are going to have empathy for those. Okay. Damn, I'm doing a live right now. You're going to have empathy for those who have done the worst things to you and the worst things to others. In all regard, and you're going to have the logic to fix it. And you're going to still feel... Yeah, deadass. Like, no, I'm just fucking around. I'm gonna text you back. I'm gonna hang out. I'm gonna chill with you later. We're gonna still feel how we feel. We're never going to like be empathy and logic like overlords, and we're never going to just be like, I feel no resentment at all. I have no hatred. Oh, I'm just a pure being. That's not true, dude. People like I post memes all the time about like Hitler and shit, like Jesus hugging Hitler. Oh, we need to find a way to cure this and that, like the worst people can think of. Do you not think that when I think about that person, I'm not just like, I genuinely hate that person deep down? Like part of me is not just like, fuck that dude, like this dude is disgusting, I fucking hate, like, do you not think that part of me would not just absolutely despise that motherfucker and just want to go ham on that motherfucker? Part of me will always be like that, and it's the same for everything else, everyone else. And if you deny it, then you're not on the right track. Part of empathy is understanding your own emotions as well and nurturing those things and understanding how to validate them and implement them properly. You cannot act like you're a pure being of peace and no hatred. That doesn't exist. You can be a helpful being who's heavily critical and attacks with precision that helps in the best way while appealing to your own feelings, because you're always going to feel that hatred towards people who have hurt you and hurt others, especially the people you know, if they're others, which is bias. I won't get into that, but that's another big thing I'll probably talk about later. So when I'm talking about all of this, I'm not saying discard your emotions. I'm not saying that. When I'm talking about all this, I'm not saying be a crybaby and dismiss logic. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying either that you should be fucking like schizophrenic psychopath type of psychopath type of like Patrick Bateman head ass type shit. No, none of that is what I'm saying. These are all extremes. I'm saying literally in the middle is where you'll find this. And going into that, you're going to actually be able to have this empathy and help others and yourself. Now, going into the main topic that I've been really getting all technical about this whole video, or this whole live, that I brought up, the main example that I'm basing everything off of and jumping off of, even those infinite examples I could do that with, cheating, which is what I'm talking about, cheating on your partner and stuff. This is heavily relatable, and like, it's heavily relatable is why I'm saying it. Give me a minute. the way you go about forgiving someone who has done something like that to you is first tending to yourself. You can't tend to yourself by hurting others, because you're going to project that pain back onto yourself, which would be like regret, especially through your adult bias where you feel like you can't make mistakes. As an adult, you cannot do that. That's another part of the healing process later, but that's actually a good thing, because that leads into you having restraint in hurting someone that hurts you. First of all, that will put you in that position to where you have your pride intact. And this isn't bad pride, by the way. There's the sins, but this isn't bad pride. This is holding on to your idea of who you are, not losing it. Now, you don't hurt others. If you cannot deal with what's in front of you right now, you leave, or you're dismissive. I've talked about this in some of my posts. It's okay to be dismissive sometimes, especially if you're overwhelmed. Not to say avoid your problems forever, but you can temporarily if you don't know how to respond to something major in the exact moment it happens. You're not going to be able to do that. But reacting out of anger, if you can avoid it, and I'm not saying you will be able to, you will make mistakes, you have to forgive yourself for that. If you can learn to, at some point, take a deep breath and feel at least neutral. Back away. What's up, by the way? Hey guys. Back away from the situation. You have taken that first step. The second step is not immediately empathizing with that person. It's prioritizing your needs, calming down. If someone has cheated on you, and this, again, just an example I'm using, one of the things you can do is just be like, this sucks. This makes me feel like shit. This makes me feel like I'm not worthy. This makes me feel like someone's better than me. All this and all these emotions, you can feel like, well, why do I feel this way? This is like bad too. You can be like, well, they cheated on me. That's bad. I feel like this envy and everything. It seems like everyone feels something bad, and instead of like feeling this nihilism, we can understand how we feel, and then we can take this approach then, where it's like, okay, everyone is kind of shitty in some way or another. I'm calm right now, and I can understand that my needs have to be met first before I even consider the other person's needs. Given this is too much for you at the moment, because it probably is. Take a step back. You go through the motions. How do I feel about what happened? Why does it feel bad? How are others' opinions affecting my opinion on what's happened to me right now? Because that is going to create our bias. How are those things affecting me right now? Are they true or important? Do I resonate with them first and foremost? Do they make sense? Maybe a little bit. Do I resonate with them? Should I look deeper into them first? Yes. Should I prioritize maybe feeling these emotions instead of shutting them down immediately because they're illogical? Yes. Am I going to make mistakes in this process? If it's your first time or even your 100th time trying this, yes. To some extent or another. You might even relapse and get really fucking bad. But you have to keep going. You have to not hate yourself or others in this process. That's the most important part. You're going through the emotions. You're figuring things out for yourself and others. This can take a long time. You're going to neglect how someone else felt, even though they did something bad to you, and you can be like, well, they deserve it. They don't deserve that. They don't. And I don't want to make you feel bad by saying that, because you think that, like, oh, you're bad. You're not. Like, deep down, I say like they don't deserve that, but deep down I'm like, they fucking deserve that deep down, but I know they don't. Logically, empathetically, given my logic, perfected is through empathy, and logic about empathy is not logic, it's psychopathy. I'll talk more in a sec.
Hey guys, welcome in. me, but I work a lot here. I get full time here, so you'll probably see me around. Oh, 17. Yeah, so I'll be walking here. Honestly, if you want to try it, like, sure.
Front door.
So for two hot tubs, 25 minutes. And do you want this? Yes. Cool, gotcha. Cool.
Front door. Front door.
No, I didn't. I don't know if you're still here, but I assumed you guys would like leave because of a really long pause. So it's cool. I was posting this mainly for like so people can watch it later. But I'm back. Anywho, I think I've probably elaborated enough on what you should do in instances where you're trying to self-recover. Let's say you've gotten to a point where you've been through the emotions, you can now understand how to help yourself in the situation. You are now going to be comfortable and going into the realm of looking at the perspective of how others may feel in that situation. And this gets easier and easier as you go through it. Now, at this point, shit that hurt you before still gonna hurt, but like probably like 100 times less, literally. That's gonna be like, dang, that reminds me of that, but I already went through that, so I know how to deal with that really fast instead of going through it for like months. It's probably 1,000 times easier comparatively, actually. Like literally, it's way fucking easier which is a huge blessing. It's a huge blessing to be a forgiving person. You're lucky if you can get to that point. It's a beautiful thing. Don't take that for granted. But you're at that point, right? You're lucky as fuck. You've gotten to that point. You can empathize with others. You can learn to get into that realm. And this is like the social realm. Once you're there, empathizing with others. The key to this, or I don't know if I want to say the key. Let me actually think about what I'm going to say before I do it, because I don't want to sound like too, like, you know. But like the key to that kind of, or whatnot, you know. I'm not like fucking a genius. Moment of silence. The key to this is, I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. In the same life, by the way. Putting yourself in others' shoes without having your judgment there. Imagining yourself truly as them to the experience and experiencing that fully, without any judgment first. You can judge after. That's the important part. You judge after. That's the important part, not before. You experience this empathy first. Imagine how it is to be them. And don't make any other actions assuming you are part of them. You're not. You're them. You've made the same decisions they have. Why did they get there? You're them. Walk in their shoes. This happened to me. This is what led to that. This is happening to me. You're like, you might be thinking at this point, well, I don't know about everything that happened to them. You're starting to consider that you don't know everything. That's a big step. That's important. You'll start asking questions. And you'll start being unbiased in the way you phrase those questions and unbiased in the way you interpret those questions because you have genuine interest. Now, with this genuine interest, you'll ask questions. Maybe not directly to them because you can't or you're uncomfortable with that. And even if you do, that's good. You could do this through others' experience. Everyone is kind of having some level of similarity in their experience. If you go down into the psychology of it, you can start to understand a baseline of how things can lead to another thing in other people's lives. If not through like physical things, which you can get into those examples, but there's many different things that can lead to many different things. You can start to analyze everything that you know, compare it to everything that has been studied psychologically and stuff if you get into that field. And people say like, oh, you're only doing this because everyone hurts psychologically. And like if you're trying to say that people are only in psychology because they got traumatized and stuff, you're kind of ignorant because everyone goes through pain in their life. That's ignorant to say. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to throw ignorant around like that. You know, like I don't want to throw it around like that. I don't want to be mean because people did that to me before. I realize like I don't want to come across as mean, but it is a bit ignorant. It's a bit ignorant. And don't worry, I'm not going to say I'm not supposed to teach you. I enjoy this. I hope you learn. I hope you find what helps you. World peace is the goal. It's the only really good goal in life. Chasing capital or whatever, feeling like the best person. That's only a bit of it. And really it's not more important than chasing world peace, and teaching and empathy is not. So let's throw that thing out the window where we're judging people for how they like act and stuff. It's probably because you have your own issues that you don't address and you're projecting. So let's get that out of the way before anything. Don't want to be mean, but I probably have been a little bit mean. That's that demon in me. That's that demon in me. But anyhow, you're asking questions. You're walking in their shoes in your head, imagining. You're starting to understand. They hurt me because they were hurt. The corniest quote in the world everyone's heard, but it's entirely true and everyone has to think about. Hurt people hurt people. This ain't a white girl's Instagram. You're talking to me, the guy that is not a white girl's Instagram, believe it or not. You're looking at me saying that. It's 100% true. People throw that phrase around and give no context. That's why people think it's corny, but it's true. It's true. And I've had this much context leading up to it, so I hope you can see that. Don't call me cringe. I've blocked every cringe page. I think they're just bullies, and I think they're like dumb. Anywho, Because cringe isn't even real. If you're cringing at things, get some help. I mean, like, everyone cringes at things, but if you're like overly cringing at things, please, like, see a therapist or something. Back on track though, because I don't want to lose my train of thought, because like there's so much to get into for like one thing that if I go too much into one thing, I'm sure that happens to y'all. You get to this point where you're actually developing this empathy, which leads into your actual logical understanding. You begin to realize that empathizing with people leads to you having better comfortability with people because you relate to them, which leads to better social skills, which leads to more opportunities, which leads to like less doubt in the opportunities. Dude, everything starts to come into place for you. And this is like the reward of not being a dick. It's funny. It's really funny to say it. To me, at least. I'm not laughing, but like I'm laughing inside. It's funny. It's your reward for not being a dick. It's karma. And I don't want to look at karma through a fascist standpoint, because everyone hurts. No one is at fault for anything. But if you're lucky enough to get to this point of having empathy, there's a reward. You're socially better. You're more protected emotionally. You know how to navigate. Opportunities come to you, and you know how to actually, like, things start to sprout in your life because of this. This is why it's the most important thing. And this is for the hustlers out there. They're obsessed with money. You'll make more of it if you're less of a dick. If you stop watching Patrick Bateman videos, you'll make more money. It's fucking funny, dude. And then you probably won't even give a fuck about money as much at that point, and you'll be way happier still and help more people. That's hilarious. But I also feel really bad for you. But it's also really fucking funny. You have to get that. And if you don't get it right now, blessings to you, you will. I don't know when, but you will. And I might end the live soon, because I've really stressed this point pretty well, even though it was like really speed ran, or whatever you would say. But let's end it in this way. I feel weird reiterating, but I'll reiterate, because that's how summaries work in high school and shit. And it is a pretty good way to end something. Without over-explaining, I'll go back into all the main points of the live, because I already explained them a little bit early on. I'll explain them basically without explaining them more than the basic baseline of them. No one chose to exist. No one deserves to get hurt. Everyone gets hurt. Everyone has negative feelings. It's okay to feel negative. It's better to forgive yourself and others, though. Your inner child is your core self, where you learn everything. You have to nurture that. And part of that is dropping your subjective understanding that you grew up with, which comes with the idea of maturity. You have to drop that. Reconsider everything that anyone's ever taught you. See if you resonate with it, even if it makes a lot of sense. See if it feels right. If it doesn't, look into it. Research it. You'll have a new understanding that will resonate. That'll make more sense. Then things start making more and more sense. You start treating yourself better, and you'll naturally start treating others better without realizing it, because you have this unconscious empathy. But then you start to have the conscious empathy once you've gotten to a certain point. And that conscious empathy building up increases your social skills to a very high point, to the point where you're doing very well in life, regardless of circumstance. A lot of the time, things will still hurt, but not as much. Opportunities will come more, and you'll know how to deal with them better when they do. You'll be better at not falling into addiction cycles, whether they're masochistic or pleasurable. Whether you're doing like drugs, or if you're like masochistic, like hit me, you'll be better at not having that. Things come into place when you have empathy for others. And part of that, and not even part of it, the beginning of that is having empathy for yourself and abstaining from violent reactions, but not punishing yourself or others for having the violent reactions, but understanding them, feeling them out, not acting onto them, and just like being there for yourself. If you teach yourself that, you're re-educating yourself to help others. And don't let anyone tell you that you were too late to the trend to heal and be a better person. Don't let anyone tell you that. Don't let anyone tell you that you're a bad person or that you're wrong or whatever. Don't let anyone put that in your head. Sorry. Go through the motions. You'll be alright. And depending on the severity, it'll take a long fucking time, but go through the motions. It'll work out. Don't like someone I really look up to says a lot. Never kill yourself. It's not worth it at all. Bold statement, but never do it. Life is beautiful, full of opportunity, full of confusion and pain that you can't really avoid, but you can navigate. There's so many ways to go through this. I mean, most of y'all have the internet. Just go on YouTube and you'll find some good father figures. Just don't look up to like anyone too far right or too far left. Don't even get into politics. Really get into like those really calm and level-headed psychology people. That will help you. Maybe talk to your local homeless person. That helps me out a lot. If you don't get it, try it out. You might chill with it. It'll probably make more sense if you do it. Unless you're like maybe a small woman or something, or very impressionable. Like, don't do that then. Just get out there. There's hope everywhere. Even if you don't see it, there's hope everywhere. You don't understand things you don't see. But look into it. What if you're wrong about everything being shit, and there's something to tell you that it's not? What if it's possible to be wrong? What if you aren't the smartest person in the world? And that's okay. No one really is. Einstein literally helped build the atomic bomb, and we're saying he's the smartest person in the world. The smartest person in the world would probably not help someone build the atomic bomb. That's a weird thing to say in their context, but what I mean by that is like we're not understanding fully what it means to be happy, be intelligent, be helpful. We need to understand who we look up to and what it means to be alive and what the point of being alive is to begin with. And our inherent movings of us doing anything really are to make ourselves feel better, and we feel better if we make others feel better. So make others feel better, understand more, love yourself more. And I could probably say more, but that's really all I'm going to say. If you watched up until this point, I hope you learned something. I hope this helped to you, or I hope it helped you. Well, peace out, and I'm done. Bye, guys.